Welcome in, everybody, to the CFB Nation All-America podcast, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I'm Bill Trocchi, senior editor at sportingnews.com, alongside Bill Bender, our national college football writer at sportingnews.com, and the president of the Football Writers Association of America. We're coming to you live on our CFB Nation YouTube channel again. If you want to subscribe, just go over to youtube.com, search CFB Nation, and click subscribe. Bill, you know, one of the reasons we named this the CFB Nation All-America podcast is because the Sporting News All-America podcast, which we both are part of working on each year, is an important part of college football. It's one of the 5 major outlets that determine the consensus All-Americans at the end of the year. We are very proud of being part of that, and so we tried to brand our podcast with the All-America right there. So they came out yesterday, and I want to go through those and talk about them a little bit. We have a special announcement for people here in the chat that are going to get a little bit of an advance notice on something for sportingnews.com that's coming out later today. So we're excited about that. Then we're going to talk about the CFP Viewers Guide and all of that. But first, how you doing, Bill?
Well, no, we got it. So we got a comment in the chat. I want to address what's going on with your Bobcats. Well, Coach was fired yesterday, and real quick, it sounds
nobody
like
knows what's going on, right?
WOUB reported. WOUB is the student broadcast center down there, and 10 TV obtained. In Columbus, obtained a personnel file stating Bryant Smith violated the university's alcohol policy by admitting to drinking alcohol in his office, storing it in his desk, etc. Obviously, you can't do that as an employee, but I mean, kind of flies against OU's rep. We do have a reputation as one of the best party schools in the country. I don't know if it's still like that. I know it was like that when I was down there, and all of that was not perception. It was very real. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunate that Brian lost his job. They'll have to find another coach. I'd push the number of firings up to 31, I think, this year. So, or firings, hiring, coaching carousel changes. But so that's what's going on with the Bobcats. And then All-America-wise, our team came out yesterday, and you and I talk about this. We have our committee. It is very stressful for me. I'm stressed until that thing's pushed live. I don't really read the comments too much afterward. I know we had a couple debates on our team that drew not some criticism, but I mean, when you're one of 5, there's some pressure there. I like that we're not last anymore. We used to be last every year. They moved us up to the 4 spot, and so now the pressure's on the FWAA, which, I'm obviously involved with them, but I'm not involved with their All-America team.
Gotcha. So, we are. This will lead us into our Trocchi trivia, and then we'll chit-chat a little bit about the All-America team. It's All-America themed, and I don't think it's too inside baseball. It's we'll just go at it right now. We will answer it at the end of the show. Who made the Sporting News 2025 preseason first team All-America team and the postseason All-America team?
How many?
There are 6 players who made the preseason and the postseason first team Sporting News All-America team. So guys who were obviously expected to have a big year, and then they did have a big year. So we'll see how many you can name with that, and people who are in the chat can kind of try to figure it out. No cheating, no Googling the preseason team between now and the end of the show. But so I think we'll go into that. Let's get into the Sporting News All-America team. We came out yesterday. The Big Ten kind of dominated things. They had 7. We had 7 players from Ohio State. We had 4 players from Indiana, and overall the Big Ten had 19, SEC 14, Big 12 and ACC 6. This is a little bit of a shift. Usually the SEC and the Big Ten are either neck and neck, or the SEC has more.
Well, Ohio State has everybody, and then people were saying, well, that's because you're
pendulum. Yeah,
based into Columbus, and it's all you. No, they probably had a couple more we could have put on there. That defense had 3 first-team guys. I know one of our somewhat, I don't say controversial decision, it was an either-or decision, was Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles. Arvell Reese is by far the social media pick, and I'm not saying he's not good. They're both really good and really deserving, but they complement each other well. And Arvell obviously is going to be on probably the FWA team. If anything, that's one of those decisions where he's not going to be unanimous now. And for our listeners that don't know, the way, and I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but this is how this works. If you get on 3 of the 5 All-American teams as a first team, you are a consensus All-American. If you get on all 5, and it's us, did we mention them? Us, FWAA, Walter Camp, UFCA, leaving one out. Who am I leaving out?
Is it AP?
AP. That's the 5th one. So, I mean, how could I leave out the Associated Press? Ralph Russo and I talked about this for years when he was there. But everybody does a good job. And so if you're on all 5, you're a unanimous All-American. And that's really hard to do. So a couple decisions we made that maybe prevented guys from doing it was 1, Arvell Reese. 2, the Hawaii kicker, Kanzi Matsuzawa. We had Tate Sendell, but we'll see if FWA has Tate on there. And then Arvell versus Sonny Styles, who was our pick. Sonny had a hell of a year for the Buckeyes, and
coaches love him, right?
They love him. He's a captain, and I'm partial to guys like that. On a team like that, where Sonny, I was talking to some people around the program there, and they were making the argument, in the second half of the year, he was as good as any linebacker in the country. And it's not saying Arvell's bad. So. A fun team to put together, a lot of arguments, a lot of stress when that thing press send, and just make sure everybody's name's spelled right. And it's like a labor bill. And I how many years have we done it together now? 4, 5?
5.
We have 5. So we've done this drill enough times that you feel good when it's out, though, because it's a really big piece of who we are at Sporting News and shows how much we care about college football.
Usually the quarterback debate is not a hard one. This year it was. This year it certainly was. We went back and forth. You talked about voting for Fernando Mendoza on our last podcast for the Heisman Trophy. I think you had Pavia second. We talked about it in our group. We ended up going with Pavia by a narrow margin. I think some of the arguments I talked about before the Heisman came out was, Pavia had better numbers and a lesser supporting cast than Mr. Mendoza, and it just meant so much to his team. And he, Vanderbilt's defense was not as good as Indiana's. I mean, the one thing that's in Mendoza's corner is they're number 1 team in the country, and they are undefeated. But he definitely had a far superior defense that could help him out when things needed to be helped out. So it was really close. Vanderbilt led the nation in yards per play. Pavia had the most, percentage of his team's yards when you add his passing yards and his rushing yards together, things like that. So he had the narrow statistical margin, and we felt he had the lesser of the 2 supporting casts, and so that kind of went in Pavia's favor for us. But you had Mendoza, but we all kind of came to the conclusion that that was going to be our guy, was Pavia.
Yeah, and so I'm when you go on the radio shows and the podcast, so I'm going to be the guy that has to defend some of these decisions. My name's on the byline, and it's not a throw you guys under the bus thing for me, because both guys were really good. And yeah, I did vote for Fernando for the Heisman, but I can see why Diego would be deserving of the World Award. Now, for our listeners, another kind of secret, we made this decision before the Heisman announcement. So all of the fallout from Diego's behavior from the announcement did not factor into our decision. And it wouldn't be something that you would strip him of that either. I think that would be ridiculous. So did chat with Diego yesterday. And that was not really addressed, that part. We tried to ask about it. He doesn't want to talk about it. You move on. and it doesn't, to me, distract or detract from the season he had. He was awesome, especially in the last 3 to 4 games of the year. I mean, you were at the Kentucky game texting me, this is one of the greatest quarterback performances I've ever seen. Talked to Clark Lee about how he played in the Tennessee game. So, yeah, it was really hard. I think the only other time in the time that I've helped with All-Americans at Sporting News where we went against the Heisman winner as a quarterback was when we selected Tua over Kyler Murray. And we could debate whether or not we were right about that to this day. I would argue we were. But, it's a really fun process. I enjoy it. I enjoy putting the teams together. I enjoy seeing all the graphics around social media of people putting Sporting News All-Americans on their websites because it shows that it means something.
So that leads us to our announcement, our sneak peek announcement. We are announcing our Coach of the Year and our Player of the Year on sportingnews.com probably within the next 2 hours, but we'll give you a sneak peek to folks who are here in our at the YouTube channel. In our chat room, we are going with Diego Pavia as our Player of the Year, as CBS did as well. And I think On3. I'm not sure. If
On3 did. Yeah, Chris Lowe ran that team.
And then the Coach of the Year, for the first time, we're having a repeat Coach of the Year in Kirk Cignetti from Indiana. Our reasons for that one was, he one-upped himself. He won it last year for us, for Sporting News, which he was a kind of a consensus guy in all the Coach of the Year. He won the Eddie Robinson Award as the Coach of the Year last year. He took an Indiana program that no one expected anything from, probably 3-9 maybe at best, and they went 11-1 and made the college football playoff, 11-2, I guess, after the playoff. But and then he one-upped himself by having a 13-0 perfect season, number 1 seed in the college football playoff. Like, how do you go against that? There were definitely a lot of other coaches under consideration, but Cignetti just continues to back up his bravado and do miracles with it, because he lost a chunk of that team last year, who was a college football playoff team. And not only did he match it, he exceeded all of the expectations and the remarkable achievements he had in 2024.
Yeah, it's really remarkable what he's been able to do there. And when you did this award, like, some publications would go Mendoza, Clark Lee, and I wouldn't have a problem if we would have done that either. It's funny that our biggest debate was Vanderbilt and Indiana for both spots.
Does that not sum up this weird season we've been
right? When you have those two schools doing what they're doing, and Kurt, like you said, that's a great way to put it. He one-upped himself. There were a lot of people like me before the season that thought, yeah, let's see you go win at Oregon, dude. All right, let's go see you play at Iowa. Let's go see you play at Penn State. And he swept those games. And then, all right, yeah, I'll believe it when you beat the Buckeyes. And then they beat the Buckeyes in Indianapolis. And here's the thing. If Alabama wins on Friday night, and we'll get to that here in a minute, they'll be an underdog. They won't be an underdog, but they'll be a very light favorite against the Crimson Tide. I could see that spread being like 3 points. So we're going right back. I'm 2.5, 3 points.
I'm thinking Indiana by a touchdown.
That's no way. I'm thinking. There's no way the spread's going to be that high if they play Alabama. We'll see, though. Alabama has to win first, and we have to get into that. But maybe 6.5 tops. But they continue to do that. And then Diego, like I said, I wrote that story for us, and the conversation was good. Probably the better conversation was Clark Lee, who
what did he have to say?
He didn't defend Diego's actions. He tried, he offered an explanation. Clark it was a very detailed, thoughtful explanation for that whole thing. And then just got into what Diego meant. I'm going to tease one quote for everybody here from the story that I read this morning that I thought was really good. He said, this is coming from Clark Lee, I'm going to read this word for word. We talk about this team of misfits because we all have feelings of being unwanted and needing to prove ourselves. He's the misfit of all misfits. For him to be out there and galvanize a group, what he has done is the players who are on the fence or unsure, he creates certainty with them and helps them elevate their game. That really is his greatest legacy here. That's probably the best quote in the story. And just how Clark feels about Diego. And obviously, like they said, Diego made a mistake on Saturday, and that's something he's probably going to live with for a very long time, whether he believes it or not. But it doesn't tell me that he was deserving of our player of the year. And that was our decision. Not everybody's going to agree with that, but we didn't get as much pushback yesterday about having him on the first team as I thought we would.
No, I think it was kind of split out there, probably 70-30, 65-35. Mendoza. I didn't think we were out on an island on that one. So, all right. Well, let's get into the college football playoff as we talk about Michigan, as we talk about coaching changes and DeBoer and things like that. Oh yeah, we've got 4 college football playoff games this weekend, although 2 of them involve G5 matchups that have rather large spreads. We'll get into that in a second. But before we do, let's do a quick rundown of the non-college football or bowl games between now and next Tuesday when we rejoin you for another CFB Nation All-America podcast next Tuesday morning. Tonight, we've got Missouri State, Arkansas State in the Xbox Bowl, 9 o'clock on ESPN2. FanDuel has Arkansas State by 1.5. And then we've got Friday leading into the CFP, we have Kennesaw State and Western Michigan in the Myrtle Beach Bowl at 11 a.m. on ESPN. FanDuel has Western Michigan by 3.5. We've got NC State taking on Memphis in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, 2:30 on ESPN on Friday afternoon. FanDuel has NC State by 4.5. And then Monday afternoon, after all the CFP, we've got Washington State, Utah State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Bill, on the blue turf, 2 p.m. on ESPN. FanDuel has Utah State by 2.5. So we can talk about, the minor teams and minor bowls here. But on the plus side, all 4 of these games, spreads are only 4.5 or less.
Yeah, and I'm 2-2 so far against the spread. These are miserable to pick. I always say if you get through 39 bowl games and you are like 20-19, that's a win. Like, they're just terminally hard to pick. I've had some bad years with it. I've had some good years. Some interesting games. The Xbox Bowl, Delaware last night, Missouri State tonight. There's something when you're playing in that first bowl game. So when people say these are meaningless, watch Missouri State play tonight and tell me it doesn't mean something to them. And then some interesting games as we get into it. I always like the Hawaii Bowl on Christmas Eve. Not quite there yet. But yeah, I'll watch and pick, and we have full bowl predictions out there. No surprises, really. You'll have games like last night, Old Dominion, South Florida, where the quarterbacks don't play, but just enjoy them. It's football. You're going to be complaining when we don't have it.
Yeah, we're going to get excited, especially for this Friday night game that we're about to talk about now. But 2 good games on Friday leading into it. Kind of have background noise if you're still working, getting ready for that Alabama-Oklahoma game. Speaking of, so you and I, you won the confidence contest for the season. Let's pick the 11 CFP games just against the spread. I've got my picks written down here, so you can go first after we discuss each game as we go. We'll go 1 point for each game for the 11 games and see who comes out on top for our postseason contest as we go. All right, Friday night, number 9 seed Alabama at number 8 seed Oklahoma, 8 o'clock on ABC. Alabama is a 1.5 point favorite, according to FanDuel. These teams met 5 weeks ago in Tuscaloosa, of course. Oklahoma won 23-21, despite being outgained 406-212. But Alabama had 3 turnovers, including an 87-yard pick six. They missed a field goal. Alabama had the ball twice in the fourth quarter, down 23-21. They went 3 and out on their first possession. They took over on their do-or-die possession with about 5 minutes to go on their own 6-yard line. They got it out to midfield, not quite into field goal range. Then they had an incompletion on 4th down, and that was it. Oklahoma came out with the win. Oklahoma comes into the game on a 4-game winning streak, but the margin in those 4 games is only 5.8 points. And then Bama comes in, of course, 2-2 in its last 4 games. So neither team a ton of momentum. Last time we saw Bama, they were getting blown out by Georgia, 28-7 in the SEC championship game. I would say neither team is really clicking on all cylinders at this point. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see which offense gets going. One of the keys to this game that I've talked about at length this week is which quarterback's better. Both of these guys in their last 4 games, whether it was Alabama's last 4 games, Ty Simpson, 58.3 completion percentage. Oklahoma's last 4 games, John Mateer, 58.1. Anything under 60 is rough in college, in my opinion, So which quarterback gets going? Does Alabama turn the ball over again like they did last time? That these turnovers have killed them in these games. So if they can hold the ball and get a little bit of a running game going, then I think Alabama has a chance to win. And they are favored, and that always catches my attention. That means some of that's public sentiment. Some of it, I think Alabama is the better team. You mentioned the disparity in yards, but can they handle being on the road in a playoff setting with the Kalen DeBoer noise around Michigan and all that, which they can silence? And am I supposed to make a pick now?
You can make your pick, then I will announce my pick. Let's do
all
that.
Right. Well, I put in our predictions Alabama 22, Oklahoma 17. Alabama 6-4 on the straight up on the road under DeBoer. But if they can clean up those turnovers, they win the game.
So I am going to go against one of my betting guidelines by picking Alabama as well. I think they are the better team. I don't think they're going to lose 3 times in the last 13 months to this Oklahoma team. But the Friday night home dog, that's one of my favorite things in all of sports, the Friday night home dog. And that's how Oklahoma comes into this game. But I believe Bama's a better team. And like I said, there is noise around the Michigan thing. That's distracting. DeBoer has gotten beat on the road several times since he's been at Alabama. So that's against them too. But I just, I watched that game. I just felt like they were better. And, it's
screwed around a little bit. They got to protect Ty Simpson better, right? I mean, and then if they do that, I think they win the game.
Right. And if they can get any kind of running game going to kind of give him a little bit more time too. So, all right, well, then we both go with Bama on that one. Let's get into our next game. Saturday, number 10 seed Miami at number 7 seed Texas A&M. This one's noon on ABC. Texas A&M is a 3.5-point favorite, according to FanDuel. The 2 teams that beat Notre Dame early in the season get to duke it out in round 1 of the college football playoff. How about that? So Miami won its last 4 games, all by at least 17 points after their overtime loss to SMU. They obviously got a jolt of adrenaline on Selection Sunday when they jumped BYU and Notre Dame to get into the field. 6 of Carson Beck's 10 interceptions came in their 2 losses. He's only thrown 1 since that SMU game. And then, of course, Malachi Toney, nicknamed Baby Jesus. I don't know how you go against someone named Baby Jesus a week before Christmas, Bill. You gotta take that into consideration. He's got 25 catches in his last 2 games. So Miami is figuring out how to tap into his just enormous talent. A&M on the other side, weird team to figure out. I kept saying they weren't good enough to go undefeated. But then I was still sort of surprised that they lost to Texas after getting to 11-0. They're kind of a high ceiling, low floor team, semi low floor. They showed both of it against South Carolina in that game. They won by less than a touchdown against Arkansas and Auburn, 2 teams that fired their coaches and finished under 500. But of course, they won at Notre Dame. They got Brian Kelly fired at LSU with an unbelievable second half. And so I think home field advantage is the thing. KC Concepcion can change a game. He was a second team Sporting News All-American.
First team on a couple teams. He's a hell of a playmaker.
He is an explosive guy when he's got the ball in his hand. So I don't know. Your thoughts on this one?
Miami had 4 guys on our All-American teams, which is probably high for them. Ruben, Bain, Akeem Mesidor, the 2 edge rushers. Then you had Malachi Toney, obviously. And then Francis Mauigoa, the tackle. So they've got the talent. This is a huge statement game. They're carrying the ACC flag. Much like Alabama, when you're told you don't belong for 2 weeks and you don't respond, and I think they will. I think they're going to make this will be the most entertaining game of the weekend. And then there's a high potential for, I'm seeing in the comments there from Michael that, maybe a shootout. I don't have it quite in the 30s, but, it comes down to which quarterback doesn't make the mistakes. Reed had some weird interceptions this year, but he only took 10 sacks. Beck played really well down the stretch for Miami to get them that playoff push. So I think it'll be a really fun game both ways, and I'm really looking forward to it. Selfishly, I've said this a couple times this week, kind of want Miami and Ohio State to play in the quarterfinals. I'm picking Texas to win the game, or Texas A&M to win the game, but if it's 3.5, I think it could be a field goal game, and I'll go with Miami to cover. I think the final score ahead was 24-21. I'm going to stick with it. A&M wins, but Miami gets. You take me Miami to cover.
I'm taking Miami to cover too, Bill. This is going to be a boring contest.
Yeah, this is boring so far because I think we're going to agree on all four.
And these are the two exciting games that have tight spreads, and they should be tight games. Should be 4-quarter games. They'll be really fun. I like the road team. I don't know if that's a smart way to go because none of the road teams won in the first round last year. But I really like how Miami's playing. And Tony is a difference maker. And they, like I said, they figured out how to get him more involved, and he can change a game. And you just never know what Texas A&M team is going to show up. I love Mike Elko. I think he's a great coach, but his team has shown some inconsistencies this year. And, I think the coaching matchup does favor A&M, but I just feel like Miami's got enough going on. They've got the momentum of the last 4 games, and then the momentum from Selection Sunday, where suddenly they are getting a chance to really show that they belong. So, like you said, I like Miami in that one too. So, third game, number 11 seed Tulane at number 6 seed Ole Miss, 3:30 on TNT. Do people even know these games are on TNT? They were last year. They're going up against the NFL, so not great. I don't know about how the ratings are going to go.
Why do people make a big deal about that? Like, we have I was talking about that this morning. We have remote controls. I do watch Law and Order. Is that a big deal? Will less people watch it because it's on TNT?
I just feel like the casuals are going to see an NFL game and they're going to go over to ESPN. They're not going to find the Tulane Ole Miss game, and they're going to be like, whatever, I'll just go watch the NFL.
that could be, but like I'm trying to think the last time I flipped TNT on my TV. During college football season, options are limited for like I'm working constantly. So, but yes, Law and Order reruns. It's one of our.
It is tough.
Miami, like March Madness. You sometimes I know it's like 11:11 or 11:12 on my TV because I have UVerse, believe it or not. It's how we like our UVerse cable. But I have to look up True TV every year. I have no idea what the hell channel that is. And other than the Impractical Jokers marathon that they have on there 24/7. But I don't think that's a big deal to me. But I see what you're saying. It's just easier to flip on Eagles Commanders at that point if you've just got one TV on. As for the game, Bill, I think Tulane.
Let me give the spread real quick. Just Ole Miss 17.5 points, according to FanDuel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Tulane's going to compete at least. I don't know that they'll win. I can't quantify. I've been struggling with this all week. How does not having Lane Kiffin matter on game day? As far as he hasn't been there long enough. What's the environment like? Do they come out and just destroy Tulane like they did last time? Jake Retzlaff, he missed his first 9 passes in the first meeting. They played very terrible, but I liked how they played in the American Conference Championship. So they're going to they're going to need to stop the running game. There's no question. Kevon Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss are going to be a problem. I have the score at like 34-19. So that tells you that 17, even if it was 34-17, I'm still covering. So I'm going to take Tulane to cover the big number. If they don't, I'm not looking forward to social media because obviously when you lose to somebody 45-10, if you didn't make adjustments and I guess I'm counting on them to half that essentially, which is risky, but who knows? We'll see if the Lane Kiffin factor does or doesn't impact Ole Miss. I would worry about that more in the next one after Ole Miss wins this one, and then they go do that rematch with Georgia. I think that's where Lane might be missed.
And the John Summerall factor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got his eye on Florida. He is juggling 2 jobs at once. He's stealing Georgia Tech's offensive coordinator and quarterback already. So he's been busy on the Gator side as well. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Like you said, Retzlaff struggled big time, right, in that first game. And I don't know. I'm going with the home team. I'm going with Ole Miss big. I can't unsee that first result from the season. And, it wasn't competitive. It was 23-3 at halftime. It was 45-3 halfway through the fourth quarter. And they pulled Retzlaff, obviously. And it was just I don't know. I think, Ole Miss is going to be – there's a lot of pent-up energy and anger and frustration that I think they're going to take out once they get an opportunity to run around. Tulane feels, I don't know about lucky to be there, but just their coach is leaving too, and I know it's an amicable parting, unlike the Lane Kiffin situation. But I like Ole Miss. I mean, Tulane. This is another thing I can't get out of my head. It was a 3-way tie for first in the American with Navy and North Texas. I watched Notre Dame play Navy. That was not a competitive game,
right?
And so I know they didn't have Blake Horvath, but so I'm going Ole Miss. So we got our first difference, Bill. First difference there.
Not a. I mean, I'm not going to say, what are you thinking? Because, I mean, you, like you said, it's hard to unsee that score. I think Summerall's done a good job of managing. I was just impressed with how they played in the American Conference Championship. I thought North Texas was going to win that game. One thing with Tulane, they gave up 40-plus points twice this year, and those were the games they lost. It was 32 or under the rest of the season, including some shootouts with Memphis and – they don't score a ton of points either. They didn't score more than 38 points in a game this season. So it's not like Tulane's going to try to get in a shootout here. They're going to try to slow it down, and I think eventually Ole Miss will break them. I hope you're wrong, because that means that game won't be worth watching for those casual fans. They can't find Charmed or Law and Order. What other shows did TNT have? I don't know. I don't know what they run now, but you get the point now. And that's even going to be
don't have the NBA anymore. We know that.
You might as well segue into the last game, because that could be even worse for this one.
This one's going up against
Packers Bears.
Your Packers against the Bears. How about that?
I'm debating which one's going to be on the big TV for that
one. All right, number 12 seed James Madison at number 5 seed Oregon, 7:30 on TNT. Oregon is a 21.5 point favorite according to FanDuel. According to the Athletics numbers, Dan Lanning makes more money per month than Bob Chesney makes per year, at least until Chesney joins Lanning in the Big Ten at UCLA. So quick review. James Madison, of course, reached the playoff because it was ranked higher in the CFB committee's rankings than ACC champion Duke, and took one of the 5 automatic bids. So that's the reason. We've got 2 group of 5s. Hopefully our listeners already knew that. But James Madison went 12-1 with its only loss to Louisville. It was 28-14 in that game. It was 14-14 at the end of the third quarter, and Louisville had a touchdown on a scoop and score to take the lead, and then went on to win by 2 touchdowns. But Louisville only had 264 total yards against this James Madison defense. James Madison's defense, good offense. They're going to struggle. They're going to struggle in this one. The weather's not going to be great, from what I understand. Mid-30s, kind of rainy, whatever, just Oregon-ish weather. Maybe JMU can hang around a little with their D, but, I don't know. I think there's also a chance Oregon runs away with it, and it's over in the third quarter.
Yeah, that's yeah. That's
what you're leaning towards.
We talked about this in our meeting yesterday. Let's say James Madison won. What would this be like in college basketball terms? It would be 15-2 upset, and those don't happen often.
St. Peter's making the Final Four.
St. Peter's is a good one. Yeah. We pointed out James Madison basketball team won a first-round game a couple years ago, and I think they were a 12. They were like that trendy 12 seed. Which is ironic. I should probably go look that up. But Oregon could be out for blood here. Dan Lanning was loose. I saw his comment yesterday. He cracked on a reporter who had Adidas shoes on in the press conference. Obviously with yeah, you can't wear Adidas into an Oregon press conference apparently. I think they're going to be out for blood a little bit, and they're better up front. If James Madison does have a relentless rushing attack. Wayne Knight's really good. Same Wayne Knight name as Newman, and I think the guy from Jurassic Park, but early in the movie. But my point is, Oregon offensive and defensive fronts are just nasty, and I think Dan Lanning, I think they're still mad about last year. They're a team not only that I think can win here. I've gotten this question about 20 times this week. Which team in the first round could win the national title that's playing this weekend? The answer is Oregon. Like, Oregon absolutely could win the national title. We've seen them play Indiana in a 4-quarter game. We've seen them beat Ohio State in the last year. They didn't compete with Georgia last time, but these are different teams. And Dan Lanning's got the juice to take this team to a national championship. Now, they do have both coordinators taking new jobs. So that's worth noting too. Is that a distraction?
James Madison's coach is taking a new job.
I know, there's like we should do a chart of all 12 teams. It's actually a good question. How many teams don't have a offensive or defensive coordinator leaving for another job? Texas A&M's got their offensive coordinator leaving. I think Miami's good. But does that distract the game planning a little bit? I read a comment from Dante Moore yesterday that said Will Stein and him talked, and Will's concentrating on Oregon. Well, what else is he going to say? But I think at the end of the day, most people are going to be watching the Bears and Packers by the second half, because I got this around 38-10. Could be worse. That's a big number for a playoff semifinal, but I think Oregon covers it.
I do too, Bill. So we've got one different. I agree. I don't, when you have such an overwhelming advantage in one area of the game, and I think Oregon's defense versus James Madison's offense is a mismatch, big time mismatch. Oregon's going to score enough against this James Madison D to be able to pull away. And I think, mid-third quarter, we're going to be checking in on the Bears and the Packers and seeing how that's going.
Well, real quick, if my scores are correct, which they won't be, but if they were, you would have an average margin of victory of 13 points per game in the first round. Last year, it was 19.3, and everybody complained all weekend that we had blowouts. Now, if it's 13 points per game average and Oregon skews that with like a 35-point blowout, I probably wouldn't complain as much. I do think Friday night's going to be really entertaining in a defensive way, and I do anticipate Miami, Texas A&M being a one-score game. The other two, not so much. And I can live with that, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the Notre Dame Indiana game was a pretty good game last year.
It was.
And the Clemson Texas game was a very good game. I don't know, the final scores might have been a little spread out. Notre Dame was pretty much in control of that game. It was still a cool game. It was a fun game.
Ohio State, Tennessee was entertaining. I know it was a blowout, but it wasn't but it was like, oh, the Buckeyes are back.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And
right. There was so much orange in that stadium and all that controversy. Like, what's going to happen? What if Ohio State loses?
Drama was great. So that means the only game to me that was an absolute dud last year was Penn State SMU.
Yes, agree.
I mean, that was there was no reason to watch that after halftime. They 100%. Had a meltdown. But yeah, it'll be entertaining. And by the way, so did you pick Miami straight up? Or you pick them a cover, but do you think A&M's going to win?
No, I think Miami's going to win.
Okay, good. So if you're right, and I hope you are, here would be our quarterfinal matchups in theory. Ole Miss, Georgia. First game was awesome.
Yes.
That's a rematch I can live with. You'd get Ohio State, Miami, or A&M. Let's say Miami. Ohio State, Miami would be awesome content. You get to see those offensive and defensive lines.
There'd be a few scouts watching that game, I think.
There'd be a lot of NFL people at that game. You get Alabama, Indiana in the Rose Bowl. That's entertaining because, like I said, I do think that spread would be short, not very big spread. And then you get the game that I'm most excited to see, honestly, Oregon, Texas Tech. That Texas Tech team coming off a bye week and Oregon with a lot of momentum. You get all five teams in my opinion, you get 5 teams capable of winning a national championship, and Ole Miss, Alabama, and Miami aren't the worst spoilers. That's the 8 I want to see.
That's a heck of a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day combination right there. All of those games. So, all right, let's get back to our Troche trivia question, and then we will get out of here. Who made the Sporting News 2025? How many of the 6 players can you name that made the Sporting News preseason All-America team and the postseason All-America first team?
I think I got all 6, and I do. I'm wondering how many of these guys made the midseason team too. I'm going to say the 6 guys are Ruben Bain.
Incorrect. Right off the bat.
He wasn't on the preseason team.
He was not preseason first team. Might have been second team.
That was an oversight by some guy, by me probably. Oh, then I think, okay, if that's my one miss, let me get some guys that I know were on there. Jeremiah Smith.
Jeremiah Smith, correct.
Caleb Downs,
correct.
He better be. He's been on the team for like 2 years running. Francis Malagoa, Miami tackle.
No.
What were we thinking?
I know.
Jeremiah Love.
Yes, Notre Dame.
Leonard Moore,
Notre Dame.
Emmanuel Pregnon, Oregon guard.
A different lineman.
What are we doing? Fano?
He won the Lombardi.
Spencer Fano.
Correct.
Okay.
Spencer Fano from Utah. We got one more guy. He's just been kind of solid, kind of default.
Give me 1 second.
One more.
Stowers.
Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt at tight end was on the preseason first team and the postseason first team. So
what a terrible showing by me there.
Not really. You got most of them.
The midseason team, I think Caleb and Leonard Moore were all 3, which is hard to do. I think they were also on the midseason team. So, they're 2 of the best defensive players in the country all season. So we got those. If anything, we can rest at night knowing that we got Leonard Moore and Caleb Downs right this year. I can live with that. They were both down at the Nagurski.
We certainly did not have Diego Pavia as our first team quarterback in the preseason.
No.
So, all right. Well, there we go. Well, it's going to have an exciting weekend. The next time we see you will be Tuesday morning, 9:30 Eastern time. We will review the college football playoff action. And then Thursday on Christmas, we are not going to have a podcast, but we will be back the following Tuesday as we get ready for the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day quarterfinal extravaganza. That's going to be very, very fun. So I want to thank everyone for listening to the CFB Nation All-America podcast, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Thank you to Irish Breakdown, your source for Notre Dame football information. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we will see you next Tuesday.